Okay, I'm probably going to have to do this in two parts because I've got a lot of these arrowheads. Now these are what they call true arrowheads, or they're also nicknamed bird points because some of them are so small that it was thought that they might have been used for small game or birds, right? But I've got a couple of collections that I've got from different people. I didn't find any of these on my own. These were given to me, and most of these are broken that I'll be showing. But I do have some that are fairly complete. Like one of the most complete ones I have is this one here. It has been glued back together by the original owner. But I'm just going to show these up close like I did the Atlatl dart points in the previous video. As far as I know, these are all from Texas and maybe even Arizona, New Mexico. But most of these are from Texas. Just to give you an idea of the size. About 2 and 3/8 by 5/8 wide. Now, these true arrow points range in size from fairly large, like this one here, to extremely small, like this one here. And I've got a couple of reproductions of four-shafted arrow points, and these are reproductions of actual arrows in museums. This one's a reproduction of an Apache arrow, and this one's a reproduction of an ancestral Puebloan or Anasazi arrow. And you can see the size difference and how small some of these arrow points can be. Like this one is only 5/8 inches long, the smaller one. The Apache arrowhead inch and 3/16. Okay. And this real one here, it's one of the largest arrowheads that I have, true arrowheads. So you can kind of see the range in size. Now if I bring out one of the Montels, let's just, do I have one out that, I don't have a real one out that shows the proportions for an Atlatl dart point, but you get the idea. Okay, some guys are hunting with this size of point. This one here, this Atlatl dart point. It could also be a knife, but this is probably an Atlatl dart point. This is a reproduction, okay? But I use the proportions from the real ones. And let's see if I have the grain scale. Modern hunting arrowheads for arrows can get up to 200 grains. But as you'll see, the Native Americans used much smaller arrowheads for their actual arrows. So this is 206 grains. So the weight on this is not out of line with some of the modern hunting points for arrows. But this is an Atlatl dart point, classified as an Atlatl dart point, and one of them hafted looks like that, like this here. This is also a reproduction. It's not a real one. Both of these are reproductions. This one's hafted, and this one's hafted, and this one is not, obviously. So you can see the difference between a hafted true arrowhead and a hafted Atlatl dart point. So that'll give you a frame of reference. What archaeologists are classifying as Atlatl dart points and true arrowheads. Okay. Now I'm not going to give the names of these types. I know that's going to drive some of you guys crazy, but I don't want to make a mistake. This one probably is a Caracara point. It's got very fine serrations and other characteristics of a Caracara point. If I know for sure what they are, I guess I'll just tell you what they are. But if I don't know what style it is or what it's classified as, I won't tell you. I don't want to make a mistake. Now, this is a real one. I probably will show my collection of arrowheads that I made, my latest ones, but that'll be a later video. Okay. These are going to go pretty quick. I made a reproduction similar to this one. Same material. This is one of the first arrowheads that I got. This was gifted to me many years ago. Well, not many, probably in 2008. And I just made this maybe a couple weeks ago, this one here. So it's taken me, 10 years to get to the point where I can duplicate these delicate arrowheads. Not exact, because this one has bold flaking on it, and this one has little flakes that I was just pecking at the edge, trying to get the shape right. But the real one has bolder flaking, like he knew what he was doing, because he had made maybe dozens or even hundreds of those. And it was just, old hat for him. Now this one, I glued it back together. I don't know if you can see the breaks. I dropped it like this. The first day I received it, I dropped it on a tile floor and broke both of these ears off, and I had to glue them back on. So I learned my lesson pretty quick on how to be careful with these. This is one of the desert side notch types that I have. Black chert. Now when we get into the true arrowheads, I would say that, at least 70% are heat treated. You'll notice on some of these they have minute serrations. Most of them don't. Some of these are very well made. These were all obviously done with natural materials, bone and antler pressure flakers. Most of the finished work on these is all pressure. Obviously, it's hard to do percussion on such small, tiny little points. Now, some of these are classified as desert side notch. There's various types of these desert points. I think this is one of those types that I don't know the name of. I think this one is a Sequoia point. Heavy serrations. I'm showing you the largest ones first. Trying to keep an eye on the time here. This one obviously has some impact damage. A lot of these have impact damage. This one has some beveling. Well, sort of. Probably not intentional. And what I mean is, of course it's intentional because everything in flint knapping is intentional, but not all of these points are made in this way. Not all of these scalhorns have this kind of a beveled edge, and not all of them look twisted like this. So it's not really a characteristic of the point style to have the edges kind of beveled like that. This one does have edges that are fairly sharp, but not really. Of course, being in the ground for a while will dull the edges a little bit. I was surprised when I first started collecting arrowheads that the edges were not really all that sharp in some cases. In most cases, they're probably sharp enough, but they're not razor sharp. I can feel some razor sharpness on the edge here with the serrations, but on this side it's duller, and this has definitely some impact damage. Sometimes the ones with serrations are sharp, sometimes they're not sharp. So the serrations are no guarantee that it's going to be sharp. At least on these artifacts. All right, I've got some, well, I have a few that are quartzite. In the next video with the true arrowheads, I've got some more that are made of quartzite. This white translucent quartzite. It's got a pretty good edge on this side. Or it could be chalcedony also, but it feels like quartzite. Stuff is normally difficult to work. This one definitely has some very chaotic serrations. Edge is very sharp though. Sharp edges on this one. If I don't get through these all, I'm just going to stop at 30 minutes anyway. The surfaces on some of these feel very smooth, like they were ground down after the fact to make them smoother. Like this one feels smooth. It's got very minute serrations. You'll notice that some of these have bold flakes, some of them have long, thin, narrow flakes. These edges are pretty sharp. Some of these are made unifacially, like this is the original flake scar on that side. Very quickly made. This one is made with a little bit more skill. Very thin. Impact damage. Okay, I got some. Here are the quartzite ones. Okay, these are going to be quartzite or chalcedony, this next batch. Kind of rare around here. It's usually difficult material to work with. Some of the chalcedony can be heated and it becomes very nice. Very nice to work with. But in general, this type of material has a lot of issues. And I've even heard that some of this is petrified wood, although I can't verify that. You know, some material that looks translucent like this is actually petrified wood in some areas of the state. But I don't know, I can't tell the difference. This is definitely quartzite, but it's a high grade. That glare is terrible. Okay, then I got some of my favorite type, the Edwards points. These coming up here will be Edwards style points. Very sharp. This one's very sharp. Still has some Cortex. No, that's from the previous owner. Some kind of adhesive or something. Now I made a reproduction recently of an Edwards. This is mine here. I try to, whenever I can, if I find material that matches some of my artifacts, I try to make a reproduction in the same material just so I can kind of get an idea what they were going through when they were using the material. This material is easy to work, this particular type. And you can see there's bold flaking on this one. I try to match the bold flaking, but usually I just end up pecking the edge too much and get too many small flakes. Too many small flake scars, although there is some bold flaking on this side. So that's mine. My reproduction, but this one is a real one. Okay. Nice material. This one's not as sharp as the other one. This root beer stuff can be extremely sharp if done properly. I mean, really, really sharp. Approaching obsidian. So I think they used the Indians use the root beer chert whenever possible. I'm not saying the other cherts aren't as sharp or as good, but this stuff is really, really nice. It's one of my favorite materials. Other than the very high quality heat treat. Some of it can be worked raw. Some of this stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if this is raw here. It doesn't really need much heat anyway. Okay. Some of these have a patina, but it's not that common on these arrowheads from the late prehistoric period. Although Edwards is what they call transitional, which means it's one of the oldest types of arrowheads. This might be a Scalorn, but this is definitely an Edwards, and these are transitional types. So these are some of the first arrowheads in the archaeological record, true arrowheads from the late prehistoric and transitional archaic period. Now here's an interesting one because the tip seems to be broken off, but then there was an attempt to resharpen it, I think. So I don't know what's going on with that one, but the tip broke off. I don't think it was shot as a blunt or used as a blunt. It may have been used for something else, but instead of an arrowhead, but I just think it was in the process of being resharpened before it was lost or something. Some of these are quite small. I don't know what type this is. Sometimes there are types that are not described well in the archaeological record, because maybe they were rare or just one of a kind. The napper kind of went off on a tangent from the normal type, and it's probably an Edwards, but it you know, probably one of these. It just looks a little different. Sharp edges on this one. Obvious pressure work, flakes close together. I like the serrations on this one. You can tell some of them were broken off, and it has impact damage for sure. Let's see. Now I got some here from eastern Texas. A lot of these are petrified wood. Let's bring. This is a Catahoula made out of petrified wood. Edges are kind of sharp, but not as sharp as some of these other chirped arrowheads. I think that's a Friley. I think that's a Friley point. With the, you know, that little barb gives it away. Very, very thin. Either citronelle gravel or petrified wood. Not sure what type of material that is. This is petrified wood here. Very thin. They made very good use of it. Some petrified wood, I guess, is easy to work. Some of it isn't. Most of the stuff that I've tried has not been very nice at all. This is petrified wood also. A little bit of a curve, so it was made on a flake. Edges are okay. So far I have not found a petrified wood point with really, really sharp edges. Okay, just a few more. I've got another batch that I'll show in a different video. I just want to get some of these out of the way to show you what the true arrowheads look like, the size. Now, like I said, most of these are from Texas, so other parts of the country are going to have different styles and shapes, obviously. I just don't have any of those. I'm just showing you what I've got. But the overall shape and size is going to be consistent throughout the United States as far as true arrow points. I mean, you can find triangular points like this or like this throughout the entire country. This is kind of crude, but you know, you can find points like this everywhere, no matter if it's northeast, southwest, northwest coast, wherever, central. These are common, and this is a common size. These are common sizes. Okay. That's it.